Hi, I'm Tina McIntyre, and I'm the Florida Friendly Landscaping Agent at the UF Extension in Seminole County. And today I'm going to be talking to you about how to water efficiently. So we're going to be going over water quality issues and why it's important to water efficiently, domestic water use, how to water efficiently, plant selection, irrigation, and irrigation system maintenance. Florida Friendly Landscaping has 9 principles, which starts with the foundation of right plant in the right place. But water efficiently is number 2 because it's very, very important to use water appropriately for plant health and for our environment. The rest include fertilizing appropriately, mulching, attracting wildlife, managing yard pests responsibly, recycling yard waste, reducing stormwater runoff, and protecting the waterfront. So diving into water quality and quantity. So we want to have a lot of water for our future, and we want that to be good, high quality water. So when we have things like nitrogen and phosphorus, which are nutrients that are pollution overloading our water bodies, that comes from runoff, that is a degradation of water quality. And it happens to our surface water and also our groundwater. So also with water quantity, we have a decreasing groundwater and a water table that's diminishing. As we consume the water from the aquifer, we have a decrease in the amount of water that goes to our springs. We have a degradation of the water habitat. So, we do see increasing pollution start to harm things like dragonfly and damselfly larvae that live in our streams, or even fish in terms of the oxygen levels that are degraded by pollution. We also have saltwater intrusion, which takes place more on the coastal systems, but we do see that in our aquifer as well. And then we want quality drinking water for our future. Obviously, water is important to plants. So plants, it helps them with their cellular growth and expansion, their plant metabolism, transporting of soil minerals to the roots and the sugars within the plant. It has physical support through the turgor pressure and transpiration, which ultimately is a cleansing of the water as it moves through the plant and into the atmosphere. Domestic water use. So typically our water is going to be coming from our aquifer, and it's an underground rock and cave system that holds water that was filtered over eons into those caverns below. We have the Floridian aquifer, the Biscayne aquifer, and the water table. Domestic water use. So Florida's aquifers supply 86% of the state's drinking water and more than 8 billion gallons per day. Pretty sure that number is increasing. This PowerPoint is a little bit outdated. And so as we grow and as we have grown and become more urban, obviously the consumption increases. The largest users are public supply, about 40%, and then agricultural irrigation at about 39%. The sequence of our aquifers, so we have again that superficial aquifer. Here you can see it in pink. Then we have the intermediate aquifer system here in blue, and then the Floridian aquifer system, which runs throughout the southeast. So, and for domestic water use, our primary source of recharge to the aquifer is rainfall. And you can imagine that if we're consuming the water out of the aquifer at a more rapid rate than the rain is able to percolate down into the aquifer, then that is a net negative impact to that aquifer system. And again, those aquifers feed the springs that are prevalent throughout our state. On average, Florida has about 50 to 60 inches of rainfall annually. But again, as we urbanize and put in more impervious surfaces, pavement, concrete roofs, that decreases the amount of surface area that's going to allow percolation and recharge of our aquifer. So here you can see a watershed, and as the water falls on a natural system, like here to the right, it's going to be able to recharge. But if it falls onto a pervious area, such as roofing or parking lots, it's not going to be able to recharge. It's going to actually form runoff. So there are some threats to our groundwater. Obviously, we have, population growth, which continues. Impervious surfaces. So, like I mentioned, those parking lots, roofs, etc. With climate change, we are seeing more extreme events, and with, kind of the droughts that come, increased water usage. We have sea level rise, which is predominantly affects the coastal areas. However, as the water table and that, sea level actually rises, we will see an increase in the levels within our state as well. So those lakefront properties and such. We have pollution. Again, we have our really biggest pollution that we face here in Florida are those nitrogen and phosphorus compounds that are found in, a lot of different sources, but some to name a few is like septic tanks and waste. So human waste, pet waste, agricultural waste. We have runoff, we have fertilizers, things like that. But really, we're looking at our nitrogen and phosphorus that makes its way to the water, diffuses into that water, and then it's very costly and difficult to get it out. And it tends to feed the algae and the submerged aquatic vegetation, such as hydrilla or other lily pads. We have saltwater intrusion. So again, that's where we're sucking out so much out of that cavernous system that we have salt water coming in from our coastal areas that tends to make its way, because these cavities really are a vacuum. And so you can't just suck out the water and expect something not to fill it in. And typically that is going to be a pull from our surrounding saltwater areas such as the Gulf or Atlantic Ocean. And then as well as that flux starts to take place, we do see more sinkholes. So sinkholes can come as we deplete that aquifer, and really there's just a vacuum that is created, and we see sinkholes created. Domestic water use. So conservation is critical as we move forward. The Central Florida Water Initiative, which is a creation of utility companies, the South Florida Water Management District, the St. Johns River Water Management District, have come together, and they've looking out in terms of growth and how we can, really, are we able to supply the water for Florida's future? And they just keep pointing to conservation and how critical it really is that we use not only water efficient appliances and things like that in our home, but we look at our landscapes and we identify areas that we can conserve. And that's because 50 to 60% of our home water use goes to our landscape. So let's look at watering efficiently. There are some things that we can control in our landscape to kind of eat down that 50 to 60% wedge of our water use. And then of course, there's some uncontrollable factors. So things that we can control include plant selection, which I love talking plants, plant placement, so right plant, right place, soil structure, so enhancing that soil with a compost and a mulch. Mulching helps retain our water, irrigation, and maintenance practices. And we'll go through all of these controllable factors. Uncontrollable factors, we're going to have fluctuations in temperature. We're going to have different precipitation levels, sunlight, wind, soil texture, local water restrictions. These are things that are out of our control in the beautification and maintenance of our landscape. So looking at quantifying water savings of those Florida-friendly practices, we want to install and expanding discs to interrupt rain centers. And essentially all of these Florida-friendly activities and these behaviors that you adopt will save you water and money. And it's obviously going to vary, but there is a water savings there. So things that we're encouraging you to do is schedule your sprinkler system to deliver 3/4 of an inch of water instead of the 1 inch, and do it to a 1/2 inch instead of the 1 inch. And I'll show you a nice little video later that you can figure out how to do that, because most people say, Tina, tell me the amount of time I can run my irrigation, and there's a better way to do it. So I'll show you that. And then think about scheduling your sprinkler system to replace 60% evapotranspiration instead of 100% evapotranspiration. Looking again at those Florida-friendly behaviors, installing your soil moisture sensor or evapotranspiration controller, converting your turf, so not including Bahia grass because Bahia grass is Florida-friendly, but looking at other types of turf, if you convert them to a landscape bed, that's swimming pools worth of water. So, and a lot of savings where we're taking out the turf and we're installing landscape beds with micro irrigation and having a more robust landscaping community. Again, that's going to help pollinators and wildlife as well. Converting our spray nozzles to a multi-system or multi-trajectory nozzles, install pressure compensating heads. So a lot of things that you can do to look at your irrigation system itself, or even the amount of days that you're watering. So reducing irrigation from 3 days a week to 2 days a week, or from 7 days a week, a big no-no, to 2 days a week. Irrigation frequency during the winter. So really the UFIFAS recommends that we water turf once every 10 days during the winter months. So the grass is not actively growing. We don't need to water it as much. And so, you know, I think in your restricted area, the South Florida Water Management District, you can water twice a week, but what we're recommending on the UFIFAS side is that you really don't need to water twice a week. It's really once every 10 days in the dry season. And then your irrigation frequency during the summer, also looking at reducing that. So let's talk a little bit about plant selection. We want to install our annuals, perennials, ground covers, shrubs, or trees in mulched areas. And again, reducing that turf and switching it over to micro irrigation and landscape bed is going to provide function and save water. In our functional turf areas, you know, so it's not realistic in some instances to eliminate turf. We want to have recreational areas for our kids and our pets. We want to have swales and berms that are going to be vegetated with turf. So we need to look at those areas. Well, we want to select a drought tolerant turf. So Bahia grass is great. It's very drought tolerant. We want to follow those maintenance guidelines to promote drought tolerance. So, you know, fertilizing that turf appropriately and making sure that it's healthy, making sure that it's mowed properly. So again, Bahia grass, it's cold tolerant, drought resistant. It's coarse and dense in growth. It has dormancy in the winter, so it does not have that full lush green throughout the year, but you guys mostly are in the Osceola County. It's going to have a shorter period of that winter season. It has poor salt and shade tolerance, which the salt probably not too much of an issue unless you're on reclaimed. And then the shade tolerance, obviously not good for underneath our big shade trees. And the ideal height to mow Bahia grass, which is really critical when we're talking about turf, is 3 to 4 inches. So just make sure your mower is set properly. We also want to keep those mower blades sharp. Mow the lawn at the highest setting. So instead of taking it down and scalping the grass, which stresses it out, we really want to make sure that again, mower deck is raised up. For general turf grass maintenance, again, we want to fertilize according to the UFIFAS recommendations. Remove that thatch, rake it out. If you're getting a lot of thatch, which is natural process for any type of turf, but if you're excessively fertilizing, excessively irrigating, you're going to have an increased level of thatch, and it's just not ideal. So you want to look at, if you're having increased thatch, how much are we watering? How much are we fertilizing? Reduce that down a little bit. And then mulch. Mulch is fantastic. In my last talk, or potentially future talk, you guys will be learning all about mulch, and it's fantastic to utilize in your landscape. So irrigation, we're going to be looking at watering efficiently, how a sprinkler system can run efficiently, and the devices that surround it. Efficient watering is key to a healthy landscape. And again, 60% of our home water use, so everything that you see on your water bill, pretty much goes to that landscape. So, turning off the water when you brush your teeth is important, but when we're talking about trying to make a big impact, doing those Florida friendly practices in your landscape is going to be a huge deal. So we want to consider these proper irrigation factors. Where's your water coming from? What are the plant water requirements? Rainfall. So irrigation is a supplement to the rain. We want to understand what the rainfall and the seasonal capacity is for the rain, and then apply irrigation as needed in conjunction with that rainfall. So that's a really big one. Soil extremes, the temperature extremes, of course, those are a little bit out of our control, but we can use things like mulch to help. The soil type and the moisture. So if you are a sandy soil, like a lot of us here in Central Florida, you're going to have a lot of percolation going on. That water's going to flow through quickly, and it's going to dry out quickly as well. So adding that organic material, adding that compost is going to help to retain the moisture. And then your local water restrictions. So watering efficiently, you want to know where your water is coming from. Is it potable? Is it coming from groundwater? Are you on reclaimed? That's a big deal. It's going to be in these purple pipes, and that's essentially your wastewater that's minimally treated and then used as a lawn product. Surface water, if you live on a lake, it's possible you got a spout right out there coming into the lake and you're using lake water. Or maybe you're using desalinated water, possible. We want to always water early in the morning. That's the best time to irrigate. You can also water at night or in the evening, but you're going to be more prone to fungus. So we recommend really before 10 a.m. I always set mine between 6 a.m., 8 a.m., before that sun comes up, because once it does, you're going to have that evaporation starting. The temperatures are cooler in the morning, the wind is calmer, and then 40 to 60% of the water applied after 10 a.m. is going to evaporate anyways, so you're literally wasting water. No watering after 10 a.m. in any part of the state. And you guys are in Osceola County, which is the South Florida Water Management District. For odd number properties or properties with no address, you're going to water on Wednesdays and Saturdays, and then even numbered properties are Thursdays and Sundays. Now you can, again, per these water restrictions, will irrigate up to twice per week, but we want to consider that in the dormant period, we don't need to water as much. So even though you can, it might not still be the best thing for your plants, which is, again, a big goal for us gardeners. Sprinkler system efficiency, we want to calibrate that irrigation. So I'm going to just briefly tell you that, you can get a conservation of 50% of your water in your landscape if it's calibrated properly. That amounts to a lot of gallons per year and a cost savings as well. So let's watch this video and we'll learn how to calibrate your system.
Hi, I'm Tina McIntyre, Florida Friendly Landscaping Agent with the University of Florida IFAS Extension in Seminole County. Today I'm going to teach you how to calibrate your irrigation system so that you can save time and money. Hi, Today I'm going to teach you how to calibrate so you can save time and money and be sure that your landscape is receiving the proper amount of water. We definitely want to make sure that we're applying the proper amount of water to our landscape so that we're not watering the weeds, creating a rotting environment, enhancing the fungus, or leaching expensive fertilizers. About 50% of our home water use goes to watering the lawn. So if you have your irrigation set properly, you'll be saving time and money. When planting a landscape, it's best to group plants by their water needs. We recommend your landscape plants and shrubs are on micro-irrigation, which will directly water plants at their roots. Most of your sod will be on rotor heads that offer broader coverage. Today I'm going to be showing you what we call the catch can method. You'll need 4 to 5 cat cans or tuna cans that are washed out and a ruler. Place the tuna cans around zone 1 of your lawn randomly. Turn on the irrigation for 15 minutes. When the irrigation turns off, measure the amount of water in the cans using a ruler. You want an average of 1/2 to 3/4 of an inch throughout zone 1. So if after 15 minutes you have 1/4 of an inch, you will need to run the irrigation for 30 to 45 minutes for that zone to reach the desired average of 1/2 to 3/4 of an inch. A great way to save water in your landscape is to install a rain sensor. Rain sensors are actually required by law in the state of Florida since 1991. Irrigation is actually a supplement to the rain that falls. So if you're having a really wet and rainy day or rainy week, you can really pull back on your irrigation, and rain sensors can help you to do that. There's also the option of a soil moisture sensor, which can detect the amount of water that's in your soil and help you to adjust the system accordingly. It's important to consult your manual for the brand of irrigation that you have. Each brand will have different start dates, times, and run times, and how to set it. So you definitely want to check with your manual to see what the best way to do it is. New plants will likely need water every day, but most established plants need far less water. When installing new landscapes, be sure that you're checking the irrigation for the first 3 months and recalibrating just to be sure that those new plants are getting the proper amount of water that they need. Another key is to look for signs of wilting in your plants, such as drooping or curled leaves. This indicates you might need to irrigate more in that plant zone or hand water to keep the plant alive. With a well-calibrated irrigation system, a keen eye for checking the needs of your plants, and an installed rain sensor, your plants will be getting the proper amount of irrigation, you'll be protecting the environment, and you'll save money on your water bill. For more information, check out some of our Florida-friendly landscaping classes.
Great. So we're gonna take a break, and then I will come back and we'll do the rest of the presentation. Thank you so much.